Tonight's episode of Watchin' You has been preempted by this special telecast. It's the 1978 JEFFY Awards with your hosts, Jeff Scott and...
Jeff Gray!
Hey Jeff, how's it going?
It's going fantastic.
What a great year for music, 1978.
I think so.
I gotta say, one of the biggest sensations of this year has to be those fantastic face-painted phantoms from New York. Kiss. What do you think of Kiss, Jeff?
You're kidding me, right?
Well, I think that they're going to sweep the JEFFY Awards this year.
About the only awards they're going to sweep.
Mm-hmm. So, why don't we jump right into it with an award?
Sounds good.
All right, then. Okay, so we're going to start with Best Album. And, Jeff, I got a funny feeling it's going to be a Kiss record. What do you think?
Well, I thought that's what we were gonna be talking about, but
yeah, so
I agree with you.
The nominees for Best Album are Ace Frehley solo album,
Gene,
Peter Criss solo album, go ahead,
Gene Simmons solo album,
and
Paul Stanley solo album.
All right then. Well, Jeff, I've got my pick. Have you got yours?
I do.
All right then. We'll have a drum roll. And Jeff's best album is Ace Frehley.
Hey, that's mine.
Oh, well, we agree.
Yeah, we agree that's definitely the best album.
Definitely the best. Why is it the best?
Whoa. I think that if you really think about it, man, I mean, when year did Love Gun come out?
77.
1977, the first time we got to hear from Ace Frehley,
Exactly.
his songwriting, his vocals,
Mm-hmm.
and this really showcased his musical creativity beyond the band Kiss, and showed us that he had a real knack for writing really great songs with great hooks. And in fact, when you think about the vocals that he did on this album, he's not the best singer in the world, but he knows. But you know what? He knows how to produce himself.
He does, and I think everything he sings on that album suits the songs. I mean, I don't think he sings a lot of bad notes. He's on pitch. He's not Paul Stanley. He's not Freddie Mercury. But I think as a rock and roll singer, I think he was pretty good.
He's got a great knack. What I really love about Ace Frehley vocals, and on this album, he has a great knack of using the vocals to lead into a lead break.
Yeah.
He's always got this little thing he's doing. He really builds the drama before he starts playing his guitar. Mm-hmm. So there's so many good things in this. There's creativity. Every track is rock solid on this album.
There's a couple of tracks
I have one track I'm not crazy about too.
Yeah, there's a couple on it I'm not overly crazy about. I don't think they're great rock songs. They're probably not great Kiss songs. But everything else on it is just absolutely dynamite and wonderful production, amazing guitar work, great songwriting. This really showed Ace's talent. There's no doubt about it. I think it was Paul Stanley who said that Ace's was probably the best of the four.
Yeah, in all fairness, it was close for me because when I first heard these two albums together, I liked Paul Stanley's as much. No question about it.
It's definitely close. It's very Kiss-like, and so was Ace's.
So it was really close, but I got to give the notch and the JEFFY from this Jeff to Ace Frehley's album.
Definitely. All right, well, let's move on to worst album.
What's yours?
I'm going to have to say Peter Criss.
Gee, I mean, you can't. There's no way to deny that.
Yeah.
Not a chance. I got to say, that album just. I'm just the opposite of what Ace Frehley's album. I know what Peter Criss was trying to do. He's trying to show his musical roots.
Yeah.
But it was so un-Kiss-like and so poorly produced, and his vocals aren't great on it.
The other thing, too, is that the album was rushed. Peter had a car accident, right about that time that they were embarking on this project. And he was out of commission for quite a while. So
that's right.
Needless to say, the project was rushed. They wanted to get it out. Casablanca was definitely behind this project. They were going to push it. All of the three members were working diligently on their albums. And Peter's had to be pushed. But I'm just wondering how different it would sound if it wasn't pushed. I mean, did Peter have that same kind of creativity that Ace Frehley had?
Well, I don't think he does. I think that he relied on his musical roots way more than Ace Frehley did. I mean, other than who you are, but it's just the songs were retro. They sound like now, man. I mean, they're like 1978, but it sounds, all the sounds within it. There's nothing evolutionary and there's nothing revolutionary in it.
No.
It's stuck. We'll listen to it in 1978 a couple of times, and then we won't listen to it again.
Yeah. It could also be that a lot of people may have bought that album because they associated Peter with Kiss through the song Beth. I mean, I think anything Peter did after Beth was an attempt to recreate the success and impact that Beth had.
Absolutely.
And I think that anyone who bought that album expecting to hear a lot of Beth-like material were kind of disappointed. And anyone who bought the album because they were loyal to Kiss and wanted to hear a lot of Kiss-like material were disappointed. It was nowhere, it wasn't even anywhere in between. It was just way out there and so different. But I was listening to it recently, and a couple tracks on it do have a good groove. Peter's got a nice voice. Not Kiss-like, but very, very rock and roll-like. And again, going back to his roots, that 1950s rock and roll roots.
Yeah, I think you're right, though. I do think he was his attempt. I think that Beth went to his creative head, and he really saw himself as this, and everybody lauded him as this incredible vocalist.
Yes.
And he is in certain things. But many things that he does, you can tell he's not really in tune. He starts many songs on this album out of key. And I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you record an album and then...
They didn't have pitch correction in 1978.
No, but I mean, go back and do it again. I know Gene Simmons does that too, and everybody has to go back and do that again. If you're recording an album, you get to go back and do it again.
And that might go back to the fact that it was rushed.
Could be.
They had a deadline and it had to come out.
It could be. And like I said, for me, so anyway, it's definitely out of the 4 albums, and it's not even close. Like I wouldn't put any of the other 3 albums even close to it in terms of being the worst album.
What about the most Kiss-like album?
The most Kiss-like album for me is Easy. That's Paul's.
Same here.
Yeah. I
Definitely.
mean...
just before you elaborate, it was Paul that said that Aces was the most Kiss-like. But I don't know if I agree with that. Anyway, go ahead.
I agree. Yeah, I don't agree with that either. I think Paul's is absolutely... Now, in a good way, it was the most Kiss-like. There were a few songs in that album that are not Kiss-like, and we could talk about those later. Yeah. But definitely, you think right from the very beginning, "Tonight You Belong to Me." What I really loved about that song was, what? If you think about why we fell in love with this band, one of the reasons we fell in love with them was drama. It was the quiet beginning of Rock Bottom. It was the quiet beginning of Black Diamond.
Black Diamond, I Want You. A lot of them do that.
Right, and but they did that on purpose. And Paul Stanley's song, this one here, "Tonight You Belong." I remember the first time I heard it. And that first time that he really rips into that E chord, and it's very reminiscent of "Making Love," only slower, right? Yeah. That really, I mean, it was and there's a lot of, but there's a lot of Kiss-like things on the album as it goes forward.
Oh, very much so.
But I'm okay with that.
But for the obvious reason that the most recognizable voice in Kiss is Paul Stanley.
Yeah.
And the songs had the Paul Stanley hook. Obviously his sound, but I think it's a more mature sound. I mean, if you compare that to, say, Room Service, or Strutter, you get a much more, it's a better production, obviously.
Yes.
But also, I think a little more focused and mature in the writing. It's not as playful. Yeah, it's much more love song driven.
Yeah.
Not as over the top sex. They don't get that
Love Gun versus
or Mr. Speed. You don't get that kind of sexual innuendo. It's all very kind of literal.
Yeah, and he's but I guess, like as you're saying, to me, the more I think about it, what it says, because it's the most Kiss-like album, as you said, what it tells you is what influence he had over the Kiss sound up to that point.
Oh, exactly.
Right. So
that's what's interesting about these albums, is you can hear each diverse, what was going on in each member's head, as opposed to what they brought to the band and as opposed to what appeared with their name on it on the earlier Kiss records.
I'm going to give a special Jeffy to you for that observation, because that's outstanding. No, seriously, that's a great observation, because it really is it's a microcosm of everything that they are.
Yep.
So you get a Jeffy for that, Jeff.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
You're quite-
I accept this, Jeffy,
On behalf,
on behalf of God. And,
guns, your government.
yeah. Least Kiss-like album.
Oh, boy. I had two on that one. My first one would be Peter's album again.
I agree, Peter Criss.
Yeah, and it was just, again, we already kind of covered it, but I'll expand upon it a little bit. I mean, just the
Yeah.
guitar sounds, the use the way the keyboards were used in it, the nature of the drums, the vocal stylings. It was really a throwback album to the 50s and 60s. And Kiss has those elements in it, but not. This was like almost a duplicate of that sound. Like it came from a different era.
Yeah, it certainly did. And just his use of keyboards, and I'm not going to say his use, whoever was producing it.
Right.
Just the use of those keyboards to give it that pop, late 70s sound, it just didn't belong there at all. Because Kiss didn't use, sparingly they used that. I mean, you can hear some piano in Christine 16, which doesn't fit as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
But you know, if it was done well, maybe it would be different. Then it'd be sort of cutting edge.
I just
But
think it pigeonholes
just didn't
it.
sound like Kiss
No.
in the least. And where Peter is not a recognizable voice in Kiss, although his vocal work with Kiss is amazing, there's so little of it. You know,
Right.
we associate Kiss
Right.
with one, Paul Stanley, and two, Gene Simmons, vocally. To have an entire album sung by Peter Criss with material that's not influenced by Gene or Paul, without that heavy guitar sound that we're used to, it's so not Kiss-like.
Well, it was produced by Vinnie Poncia.
I was going to guess that. I was
Right.
going to say that.
You would have got a Jeffy if you got that.
I would have. I was going to
Yes.
say Vinny, but I just see if I said that and I was wrong, I would just appear like I don't know what I'm talking about.
Wow.
But I knew that all along.
See, I know I didn't know what I was talking about, so I read it.
This is it, right? We can Google things.
I have
It's not the
things-
first time we've had to Google things as we're pulling off the show.
Yeah, I don't profess to be an aficionado and all the minutia, but the other album that was a very unkiss-like in many ways was Gene's album.
I agree, but I like it.
I didn't say I didn't like it.
Yeah, I love it. I love Gene's album, and you know, I could have elaborated on best album. We both agreed on Ace Frehley, but Gene's and Paul's were a very close second. I mean, I like Gene's, but for those reasons, it's just so different.
I have a suspicion, Jeff, that when I fast forward to 2014, you know, when we watch this years later,
Yes.
that I will probably have appreciated Gene's album more than I did today. In 1978, I was completely baffled by it. The like all of the things that I didn't want to hear in an album when I was 18 years old were there. You know, background singers, pianos, cutesy things. You know.
So here's the difference. I think, you know, Gene went in such a different direction from Kiss.
Yeah.
As did Peter. But I like what Gene did, and I don't like what Peter did.
Gene's
And it all
actu-
comes down to taste, is what it is.
Gene's album actually charted the highest.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. Yeah.
That
yeah.
I didn't know. I
Yeah.
assumed Aces did.
No,
Okay.
it was Gene's.
Got the stats.
Yeah, he was reached number 22 on the U.S. Billboard album chart, making it the highest placing of all the four Kiss solo albums this year. It was certified platinum on October this year, 1978, and yeah, so it's interesting. But we'll talk more about this album, I'm sure, as we continue with our Jeffies. And
For sure.
is
Best
that-
song.
Oh boy, what did I write down for best song? Best song. I bet you this is going to surprise you.
It could, and mine might surprise you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And there's so many. I mean, it's hard to pick, but I just chose one.
I did too. Well, I
That
chose.
to me is the most fun, and one. If I had to listen to one right now, that's the one I'd pick.
Okay, I picked Goodbye.
Oh, really?
Off of really? Yeah, off of Paul Stanley solo album.
Okay,
And-
that'll be ironic in a few minutes.
Okay, so before we discuss them, what's yours?
My best song is "Radioactive" by Gene Simmons.
Okay.
I like the groove it has. It has almost like a "Rockin' in the USA" kind of a groove.
Mm-hmm.
It's Gene, not the God of Thunder. It's him having fun with some good old rock and roll. I don't know if I understand the lyrics or think they're that great, but I just think it's kind of cool. The sound effects are weird, but it comes out of those sound effects into some really cool guitar groove, and I like his vocals on it. And to me, it's just one of the more fun tunes.
I think it's. I wrote that. I wrote down for three of them. I wrote down one of my favorite song was just that, and that was my favorite Gene song. Absolutely, I love. And actually, it promised me something for the rest of the album that it didn't deliver for me. Right now, like I said, later I might like it more, but right now, that was the song I wanted to hear through the rest of the album. That kick in when they finally go into the music. Some of the Omen stuff going on in the background, and then all of a sudden, once it kicks in, it's kick ass. I think.
Oh, it's got a great tone. It's very it's pre-Charisma, but it's got that same kind of groove that Charisma. That same kind of solid feel that Charisma has. It's deep and it's solid.
Very much. Well, we haven't. Charisma, I suppose, would be a song they're going to write in the future that we could talk about. But
yes, yeah. This time travel thing ain't working.
But so I chose. Well, there's so many good songs. I chose Goodbye, and I did a cover of it last year actually, an acoustic cover of it. Yeah. I don't know something. I mean, there's so many good songs, but just something about it's emotive. It's the chord progressions in it. It's a little unkissed. It's kissed like, yet it's unkissed like. Like Paul's vocals in it are very subtle instead of being in your face like I stole your love-ish. And the lyrics are very mature as well. Like I said, it's that whole theme, and just something about the way that song's put together. I think it's very intelligent. The bridge is exceptional in it, and it just really resonates with me all the time.
The bridge on that song is good.
Right?
It breaks away from it, and then there's a really cool bridge. It's kind of solid. Yeah.
But it comes back into and that D. It's played in D is what it is. It comes in a really nice little riff there that comes out of it. So that's what I mean. I could have picked 10 songs to be my favorite song. My favorite.
For sure. I mean, something we could have done was pick, our favorite from each album.
Yeah, I mean, we may as well throw it in there and give it a half a Jeffy.
Yeah, I mean, for Ace, probably would have been Rip It Out or Wiped Out. On Paul's, definitely Love in Chains or Tonight You Belong to Me.
There's a lot of good ones on his. Rip It Out would be my favorite Ace tune.
Yeah.
For sure, and in a lot of ways.
Yeah, Speeding Back to My Baby. Just great.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it, love it, love it.
All right, Jeff, what about your worst song of all the solo albums? Your worst song?
I have about 5.
Okay.
But the Jeffy goes to every song on Peter Criss's solo album.
Okay.
Every song in his solo album is worse than every song on everybody else's album.
Every song on his album is worse than the worst song on the other 3.
Exactly, in my opinion. And that's going some. So that would be mine.
I probably would have picked something off of Peter's, but, I didn't want to pick on Peter too much. And I think it was just so left field. I looked at the other 3 and I said, now these are the albums that I really listened to in this year of 1978. And
yes.
My Jeffy for worst song goes to Goodbye by Paul Stanley.
That's hilarious.
I never liked it. I kind of loathed it.
You're an idiot. Simple as that. The Jeffys I gave you before, the 2 of them, for brilliant observations. Now you one of them stripped back for a ridiculous observation. Actually, tell me about it. Why?
We're going to be judgmental on this show.
Oh, absolutely going to be judgmental. That's the whole point. With Jeff, it's about giving awards. You got to be judgmental in order to do that. So tell me why you didn't.
The thing I don't like about Goodbye is it's got this weird guitar thing, like in the chorus parts. There's a guitar that's kind of coming like ding 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 ding. Is it a scale? Is it a run? I don't know. I just don't really like it. I just thought it was too serious. I Stole Your Love is serious, but it's fun. Love Gun is serious, but it's fun. It just seemed like for a love song, it's a little too aggressive. I don't know. It's just the one song that if you erased it from that album, I don't think I would have missed it.
From that album? Oh, I could go Hold Me. Was it Hold Me, Touch Me?
I like that one.
See, that just shows how different we are.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the.
I
beauty.
find it cheesy now, but when I was in grade 8 and full of hormones and girls were, I thought, ooh, I could imagine slow dancing to Cindy with this one, you know.
Oh, Cindy.
Cindy.
Oh, what was
Cut
her
my
name?
eye in grade 8.
What was it? No, that's
1978.
yeah. Who was the? What was the girl's name in the Phantom?
Melissa.
Remember? Melissa.
Mm-hmm.
You should put a picture up of her again. Go back to
Sure.
that one. Yeah.
Insert a picture of Melissa.
Yeah. If she liked that song, I'd like that song.
Mm-hmm.
But you like that song, it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
But so goodbye. Wow, that's hilarious. Actually, that I would
Yeah,
pick it.
you know,
That I would
just-
pick it as the favorite, and you would pick it as
Yeah,
the
that's
first.
strange, isn't it? And it all comes down to taste. It's what you
Yeah.
like. I mean, you heard something in it, and I agree. The bridge in that is kind of solid and really cool. Just something going on in the chorus part I just find really irritating.
I think I like the guitars in it. Like it was it was the use of it was just a weird. It was just an off kilter. Ain't it funny? Dun, 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 wow, wow. And I just like that groove. Then when it goes in, bam, 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 bam,
It's kind of like the Oath in a way, isn't it?
Like the what? Yeah, kind of. Yeah, kind of is. Isn't it?
It's kind
Yeah,
of like pre-Oath.
yeah. Is that the Oath?
It's similar to it. It's got a similar kind of thing there. Anyway.
All right. Well,
Let's move
okay.
on.
No. I'm still on worst song.
Oh, sorry.
I gave the Jeffy away already, but
Yeah.
I also don't like True Confessions. I can't stand that song. Hold Me, Touch Me was the other one,
Yeah.
right? So anyway, that's you can't let Gene get away with it with True Confessions. There's no way.
Yeah. Well, there's worse on Gene's album. All right, let's move on to something different. How about
Yeah.
best guitar solo? And I guess it'd be almost obvious to have to pick something from Ace's album, but did we?
Well, at the end of the day, I did.
Okay.
So I picked the obvious one because I don't know why I picked it. I picked the lead in Rip It Out. And I just think that's one of those leads that epitomizes the way Ace melds a lead into it and builds around it. Like you think about, there's a breakdown right before his lead that's just fantastic. Him and Anton, you know, bam, 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 you know, they go bam, 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 bam,
Yeah.
and then it's bam, 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 down. But then just that lead into that lead, if you will, it's just so dramatic. And it's
Yeah.
simple. What I liked about it is you think about it, it's one of those leads that's so Ace-like that's, you know, he's hitting the same note over and over and slightly
That's Ace's signature.
slightly bending.
How do you attack one note and make it sing?
Just-
Dukes.
and then do something
Same way.
and then do something. You think of the last little riff in that lead, it goes crazy. It goes damn good. I can't do it with my mouth. He goes from that simple bend to something
Yeah.
that's really kind of out there and sounds fantastic. So that was mine. What was yours?
Yeah.
That's what gets Jeffy for me.
And you know, like, I mean, everything on it. I'd say everything on Ace's album, but that's not what I chose. And I don't even know who plays the guitar solo on this. But I chose "Ain't Quite Right" from the Paul Stanley album.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Mainly because it's just not, you know, in your face hammer-ons and pull-offs. It's not speed and flash. It's I don't know how to describe it. Soaking wet is the way I would describe it. The tone is just dripping with saturation. It's good. So I think it might be Paul playing it, because when Paul does leads, it has that kind of sound. It's very smooth. It's much more David Gilmour.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's David Gilmour-ish, right?
And all those couple of leads that Paul does on The Elder, which I absolutely love. It just got this gorgeous sound. And then the song itself, I think, is gorgeous. It's almost jazz-like, which is a big departure for Paul. But to me, it shows, wow, look how diverse Paul can be and not do something that I don't like. It's something I absolutely love. It's not Kiss-like at all. The whole song is great. And then the solo comes in, and it's aggressive in places. It's kind of laid back. It's jazzy in places. And then it kind of stops, and the whole thing kind of pulls back, and then he comes in with a few more aggressive notes, and the bending and the soaking wet saturation. I just you know, in terms of feel and approach and style and tone, I just think it's absolutely wonderful.
I don't disagree. It's beyond Paul though. It was probably Bob Kulick. He did a lot of solos on that album.
Yeah, that
But
seems
he-
right.
but
I
he-
mean, I'd have to read the liner notes.
If you look at
but I'm
if you
sure
look at
he's in there.
if you listen really closely to that lead and listen to the leads that he did on that Paul did on the Elder, you can see the difference in the. You can really see a difference in the professionalism of the like Paul did great leads, like the ones you're talking about. I agree with you on the Elder, but this one has an expertise and a level
It's got
of
more finesse to it, doesn't
way
it?
more, and it's like
Yeah.
there's those little cat cries in there,
Yeah.
and then at the end of it,
Little pull-offs and
Yeah,
subtle notes.
yeah, at the very
Yep.
end of it, it goes diddle-a-doo, diddle-a-doo, diddle-a-doo. You know, it has this really, like you said, really well conceived. It's really well conceived. Very,
Oh, yeah.
actually, David Gilmoreish.
Yeah.
I love that kind of a lead too. So there's different types. Like I tend to like when I play lead guitar when I get a chance to do it, which isn't that often, because you need a rhythm or a bass to do it with. I
Yeah.
need it. I play much by ear. But that's the kind of stuff I hear. I hear that kind of stuff too. I love that, right, about that. So I agree. That's a great choice.
Yeah.
I'm not giving you a Jeffy back for that choice, though.
That's okay. I can live without it.
So you don't know yet. You don't know what they're worth.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you melt them down.
No. You'll see. Someday.
Oh, okay. All right.
Someday they'll be worth
Worst.
something.
Worst musical theme or use of an instrument.
Oh, boy. Worst musical theme. Gosh. I can't keep saying this. God. I could say all Peter's album again because, but here's why. It's just the sound is stuck, and all the sounds of all the guitars, except for the drums, maybe the sounds of all the guitars, all the keyboards, the musical theme itself is misplaced. Okay, but let's forget that for a second. Okay, I'm gonna say, Mr. Make Believe, Gene Simmons album.
Really?
Yeah, and the reason is that it sounds like about 1,000 other people. It definitely sounds like Chilliwack if you listen to it,
Yeah.
right? And it just conceptually, it just didn't fly for me. And of course, when you wish upon a star, I know why he did it, but
Yeah.
look, this year I'm 18 years old, 1978. It's not my bag. It's not what I wanted to hear from Gene Simmons.
No. And it's different for me because I'm all of 13 years old and I'm still, starstruck over Kiss, and they'll do anything and I'll listen to it and think it's wonderful.
When you wish upon, it's not.
I
It's
even
not,
like that.
I mean, if he could sing that, there'd be one thing. But anybody can sing it when you give enough time. It just you shouldn't sing it. And but it's a theme. But the question was the Jeffy for the most misaligned theme or worst musical theme. That's what I would choose. It didn't work. That theme didn't work for me. What about you?
Well, we're almost on the same wavelength there because I would have said all the keyboard work on Peter Criss's album. That's obvious. But again, focusing on the other three, which I listen to mostly. Again, with Gene Simmons' album, he experimented a lot, which I like, but some things just didn't work. It's just a little tiny thing. You can take it out and it doesn't change the song. At the beginning of Burning Up with Fever, he plays like a little guitar run on a classical guitar.
Yeah.
Then he matches it with a guitar that's in a completely different tuning. And that is just god-awful. And what does he do after that? He goes, lovely. I think he meant to say, ugly.
I looked that
then
up.
he comes back with that theme again, maybe slightly different, but he doesn't copy that. But you don't need that because Burning Up with Fever is a good solid tune. Why he chose to put that in, I have no idea. It's just cacophony to the ears. I'm like,
But that was the whole album was like that. It was intentionally absurd in some ways, intentionally different for the sake of being different. And that was just I did look it up. It was John Shane Howell who played that piece.
Okay.
That whoever that is, I don't know. But he gets we can give John Shane Howell
Shane Howell, a JEFFY Award for worst use of a classical guitar on a pop rock album.
Or just a Kiss solo album, because there wasn't any other ones, I don't think, classical guitars. So, there's lots of acoustics used elsewhere, right?
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you there, but I was listening to that again today, and I thought, what an odd thing to do. But again, that's what he put this album together, was sort of like these little odd things that lead into what he hoped was a really cool. Some of these things work, and some of these things don't work. I mean, you take a chance and you try and do something. Like you hear lots of bands that do these wacky things that like, for instance, the beginning to Baba O'Reilly by the Who, right?
That's amazing.
You and I think so, but
that was experimental, but it had incredible tone.
It's great because we like it.
Yeah,
but it was it's very risky. It's just one of those things that when you think about, if you're a Who fan, so what the hell is that? But it actually works. But you don't get that doesn't happen unless you try.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, these guys. The thing is, when they went into the studio, they said, "Hey, I can do what I want."
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
With that, especially for someone like Ace and Peter, who really were, under the permissions of Gene and Paul to say, yes, we will do this, or no, we won't do that. They were calling the shots right from day one and saying what we're going to do and what we're not going to do. For someone like Ace Frehley to say, wow, I'm in the studio here with Eddie Kramer and Anton Fig, and I can do whatever the bloody hell I want, and wow, did that shine. And again, I question how different Peter's album might have been had he not been so rushed to put that out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And Gene just had fun. He flew over to England. He brought in all kinds of people, from Bob Seger to Cher to
Rick Nielsen,
Joe Perry, all kinds of people. And he just had fun. And even the more serious songs on that album, I really enjoy them. I enjoy so many things on that album.
We know.
Yeah. Best vocal performance.
I have three, but my Jeffy goes to Paul Stanley and Take Me Away.
Yeah.
Together as one. I hate that line, but there's a part in that song. We talked about drama earlier, and there's a part where he kicks in and the reverb kicks in, and he's doing this booming, massive vocal that just blows me away. Like, I hadn't listened to it in a while. I listened to it again recently, and I was like, whoa, that has impact. And you can pick lots of different vocals, but that's what I just chose one that I felt really, really drove home a point musically, and that was definitely my favorite.
Yeah. I don't know if this is the best vocal performance or the worst vocal performance. It kind of shares the Jeffy for the exact same thing.
Okay.
It's from Gene Simmons, and I fully agree with you. Anything on Paul Stanley's album, and definitely that one you mentioned, that's just killer. But I'm going to go with Gene Simmons, Always Near You, Nowhere to Hide. At the end of it, go straight to the end and listen to him. He's just having fun in the studio, and he's hitting some falsettos, which was strange. Even Paul wasn't doing falsettos until Paul would not do falsettos until the upcoming album, which I've heard some sneak previews of. But Gene, he's really having some fun with the outro. It's just a bunch of chords being repeated.
Yeah.
And he's just belting into that microphone, and he's hitting some very, very high notes. I played this for my wife one time, who's a singer. She thought it was god-awful. When I play it back, I realize how ridiculous it sounds. But balls to try some of that vocal work, because Paul was always the vocal acrobatic, right? And for Gene to attempt this stuff, I thought it was daring, and I think it's kind of cool.
Well, I didn't, as I said in 1978, this year I don't like it, and I don't appreciate it one little bit, but I will in the future, I think, and but I know what you're saying. But you got to remember, in the studio, you get to try it. You get to try it, and if you like it, you keep it. If you don't like it, you get rid of it. So it's not, to me, to put it to actually, the ballsy part of it is to actually put it on, leave it on the record and let it go out to people so they can hear it. So I had one on his album too that I really liked, and that was Man of a Thousand Faces. And it's funny because it's extraordinarily, the harmonies in it, Like the chorus, "Man of 1,000 faces." He always comes up with these odd harmonies, and sometimes they grate on me, like Mr. Blackwell. That grates on me, like I can't, right? But this one, for some reason, there's a resonance there with it for me. So that was one I chose.
Yeah.
But I also, so I'm sorry, I'm going to keep going because I think Ace deserves a vocal Jeffy for "Rip It Out."
Sure. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
I mean,
everything Ace does on that album vocally suits the piece.
how else would you sing it?
Yeah.
I mean, it's street, it's tough, it's in the pocket. He has a really great phrasing of lyrics. Now, sometimes I find them stupid. Like the rhyme thing he does. Sometimes it gets to be like, I'm in your space. Look at my face. What do you think of this place?
Yeah.
My name is Ace. Right? But when he does that stuff, I get kind of frustrated. But other than that,
Yeah. Well,
there you go.
A little bit later on, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
Worst vocal performance.
Worst vocal performance. Oh God. See, I don't like doing this, but there were so many moments.
Who are you gonna pick on now?
It's just that there were so many moments on Peter's album where, like I said, he just was not in key, and that's, to me, is a huge problem. And I don't blame him. I blame whoever's producing that. Because
you should have the ears to know when it's on pitch and when it's not.
He just has this tendency of starting a song out of key. And the more he screams, the better he gets. Like, you think about his vocals over the years. Like, I mean, Beth was recorded, and when he did it live, he was all over the place, key wise. But when he screams, like, that's when he can really, like, Nothing to Lose and Black Diamond, and that's the kind of vocals. But this album had none of that. So
No.
So that would be the worst vocal performance for me. And yeah, that's mine. That's the Jeffy Goes to Peter for that one.
Yeah, I was going to say also Peter Criss, and specifically a song called "Kiss the Girl," which I was listening to and just thought it was quite awful.
Well, there were so many attempts on there to make Beth again, right?
Yeah, that was probably one of them.
And the problem was, and it shows, these solo albums show, and over time they've shown that they needed other people to write that kind of song, because he doesn't have the pop sensibility to write the lyric or the hooks that are Beth-like.
Yeah.
And it comes across like, there's nothing worse than someone trying to write Beth and doing a horrible job.
Yeah.
It sounds horrible.
Is it a great song to begin with?
Beth?
I know on someone's chart years down the road, it was voted one of the cheesiest songs of all time.
Yeah, those are people who don't like. They're looking for a reason not to like Kiss, right?
I guess. Yeah.
But I mean, could you? There's a good. Is it a good song? I don't know. I mean, is any song?
It's a ballad, is what it is.
Yeah.
As short as it is, it's a ballad.
Yeah.
It tells a story. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what a ballad is, and traditionally, a ballad is much longer and tells almost the saga of an unsung hero.
Yeah.
But this is very ballad-like.
Yeah.
The woes of the working musician and the lonely wife at home.
But
Orchestration-wise, I think Ezra did a wonderful job, amazing job. He certainly brought out Peter's best and vocally, but it is what it is.
Yeah.
I said I would stop saying that, but anyway.
What it is?
Yeah. Getting back to worst vocal performance, I did have a close second. You're not going to like this, but I said Goodbye by Paul Stanley, and the note I made was nice tone, but a little too high, and he's off in a few places. As good as my ear can tell, but I thought he's not quite. Just doesn't sound quite. It ain't quite right.
That's a different song.
I know, but Goodbye. Sorry, I just don't like the song, and I just didn't think it was a great Paul performance because we expect.
And I think that's why
better out of Paul.
Yeah, but I think but it wasn't the better or worse. It was just different for me for Paul, I think, and like I said, it's about melody for me too. So when I think of songs, it's not about necessarily the best vocal performance. Like my favorite songs aren't, if you ask me to play one song on guitar from these 4 albums, and I could only play one for the rest of my life in a band, it wouldn't be the best vocal performance. It would be Rip It Out, and it would. And that's got nothing to do with it. So that show, again, it goes back to saying, okay, song, music, and that's the beauty of this show, Jeff, is that, and everything about it is that it shows that music is personal and touches people in many different ways. And I don't get, believe me, I don't get offended when you say that about Goodbye, because I know that, that's the glory, that's what's great about it, is that I can find what I really like in it, while you are finding just the opposite. And the same thing with the other songs you picked, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? But you're wrong. So
I'm always wrong. My wife tells me that all the time. You're wrong.
Yeah, I shouldn't say that to you, really.
Best lyric.
The best lyric.
Best lyric.
Why don't we start with yours?
Yeah, I'll start with mine. I chose "Wiped Out" by Ace Frehley.
Oh God.
It's one of, look, I'll tell you something. I've said this time and time again. I'm not a lyric person. I couldn't tell you what some of my favorite songs are about. I could tell you what keys they're in. I can tell you when they changed from a major chord to a
but hold on.
chord. But I just don't really listen to lyrics. But "Wiped Out" is one of those songs where I had the headphones on and I thought, okay, here's a story, and I'm enjoying this parody that he's at. I'm picturing it in my mind.
Yeah, true.
And the rhyming, and it's almost like pre-rap. And I don't like rap. I appreciate the craft. It's just not my form of music. But when you think about it, okay, he's not really singing, is he? And he's telling this story, but excellent guitar riff. Cool groove, went to a party, dressed up smart, as cool could be. Knew I could make it to
B.
Whatever.
State. Fate. Great. Yeah.
Why didn't we switch to rum?
Yeah. I actually, you want to know what my worst lyric is?
What's that?
Wiped Out.
Yeah, there you go.
That's stupid. I'm looking. I swear. Look, see if you can see this. There's right there, wiped out.
You don't need to prove it. I believe you.
But it's, and and it's not that I don't. Well, here's the thing: is I don't even know what the lyrics are on Peter's album, really. And I thought all of Gene's lyrics would also be in that category. Almost every song has like.
Yeah, but I got to disagree with you there, because you take a song like "Man of a Thousand Faces."
Yeah, there's some that are okay.
It's Gene paying homage to Lon Chaney,
right?
Who was this monster, Man of a Thousand Faces from the monster movies. He played so many different characters, and to write this really nice, it's almost like
that would be an exception.
Love song style, you know.
That's an exception.
Mr. Make Believe, I thought, was very magical. It's about like some kind of a magician.
It's the other 8. It's the other tunnel of. It's the tunnel of.
Well, okay,
tunnel of love.
Like,
it's the I'm living in sin at the Holiday Inn.
Living in sin at the Holiday Inn. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I want to shove it in you, baby. Oh no, that's not an actual lyric. But I guess that's what he's getting at. But no, it's sort of like, Wiped Out for me is the one that came to my mind, because it's one of the things I don't like that Ace does. I mean, is that, like, I think of some of his lyrics. He unnecessarily gets into this rhyming pattern that's annoying to me, and simplistic, and that doesn't live up to the quality of the song around it. And I think that's what it is more than anything. It just doesn't the music is so fantastic, the groove is so fantastic, and there's this lyric in there that's kind of. Now, that particular one, I might reconsider that one based on your discussion there, because I remember listening to it and thinking, I actually did pay attention to it for the very reason you said. Yeah. It actually tells a little bit of a story, but I don't know if I'd want to listen.
I love listening to that one and just following on every word. I'm hooked on. Like I say, I couldn't tell you what some of my favorite songs are about, because I don't really listen to lyrics. To me, it's like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem important. That's like if I'm teaching English, and I do teach high school English. It's like doing poetry and saying it's not important. I don't know.
But again,
pop lyrics, it's different with.
You're not alone.
With Pink Floyd, the lyrics are deeper, and they do have more poetic meaning, and I can get inside that. Not so much with Kiss. It's all just
What about Metallica?
sexual innuendo.
Here's the thing. What about Marilyn Manson? What about Metallica?
I don't listen to them.
Yeah, so it doesn't necessarily. It's not necessarily the genre.
But, Iron Maiden can be very introspective in a way with their dealings with things like history.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting.
Still,
at.
I hear the syllables in my head. I could probably get up to a microphone and replicate it, but I'm only doing phonically. I'm not really thinking about what the words mean.
Yeah. Well,
I hear the voice, but to me the voice is just an instrument as part of that sonic soundscape.
I would have to say that I have to agree with you, because when I first listened to music, and until I really decide to take it seriously, I don't actually listen to the words. I listen to the phrasing. I listen to the melody, and I'm often singing what's not there. And then finally, when I get serious about it, I go and look, and I go see what someone's actually saying. Now, as a songwriter, I look at it completely different, right?
Yeah.
I take a lot of pride in trying to come up with something that that's, I don't know. I don't even want to say it. It's not true. I don't try and do anything. I just do what I do. But I know the lyric is very important to me when I write a song. But that's much different than listening to a song. There's no doubt about that. So.
Yeah, we didn't put a category in for worst lyric.
Yeah, we did.
We did. I did.
Yeah, I said wiped out.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd have to say "Living in Sin" at the Holiday Inn.
Yeah,
Definitely the worst lyric.
That could override. That's why I said you could take there are exceptions. Don't get me wrong. I agree with you. I always said that one of my best vocal performances was "Man of a Thousand Faces," so I like that song. Yeah. Another good song on that album we never talked about was "See You in Your Dreams." Not "See You in Your Dreams."
I love his treatment of that.
No, not that one.
No, just as a side note, I think that's a better version.
I don't think it is.
Oh, I love it.
No, I wrote that down.
It's different. Even the choruses are different.
Well, it is different.
I loved it. I thought it was great.
Well, I did not like it. I wrote down "See You in Your Dreams," better or worse. I actually wrote that down for tonight, and anyway. But again, I don't know. It seems like no matter what we do, and it's probably why we get along, why we like to play music together, is that, and we do. When you think about it, it's because we are different, and I think that, but we're tolerant. So when we do get together and we do play guitar, we play very differently. Right? We play our styles are really differently, but I do think when you do that, and I think you and I do it, that we think we do go like that. And I think idea-wise, that's okay too. But you got to be open-minded and tolerant to the other person's perspective on it in order for it to work. But it's funny, we keep going back and forth. But "See You in Your Dreams," I just said it's not better for me. I like the other version better. It's not a bad version, but again, it's just more chorus girls in it.
Is it a Gene song on "Rock and Roll Over"?
Yeah,
it is, isn't it? Okay.
Yes.
When I hear the chorus, all I hear is Paul Stanley. Paul is really strong on the chorus of that.
I think if you listen to it again, you'll change your mind. It's very Gene based.
I'm hearing the chorus in my head right now, and all I can hear is Paul Stanley.
Go listen to it again.
But what I love about Gene's solo album are those female backup singers singing the chorus. He's not on it at all.
So that's what you like. I don't like. See?
That's what I like, and there's a little hook in there that's different.
Yeah.
Then the solo is really cool, even though Ace plays the solo on "Rock and Roll Over." I like what they did on Gene's album better. It's all a matter of taste.
Absolutely, but you're wrong.
I thought it was better produced.
It was definitely.
I don't know who produced Gene's album.
Yeah, it was definitely.
Eddie Kramer did "Rock and Roll Over."
Yeah, it was better produced.
Rock and Roll Over had a great sound.
No, it didn't. It didn't. It very raw sound.
It was kind of flat.
Yeah, and see, in that particular song, different songs on that album sound better than others. Like "Making Love" came across very well in that song.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But that particular song, I agree with you. The production of the particular song wasn't that strong. I can't see who produced Gene's. Producer. It was Gene and Sean Delaney.
Oh, Sean Delaney.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But anyway, so we were worst lyric.
Yeah, we covered that. Here's an interesting one. Stick Your Neck Out Award. Who gets the Jeffy for sticking his neck out the most in terms of off-the-wall creativity?
Well, that's obvious. I mean, as far as, as Gene's album is the most creative album, I'd say.
I agree. Gene Simmons.
Yeah, and that's pretty straightforward. We kind of talked about that. It's having said that, I would put Ace's album very close second, but I think that it was easier for him to be creative because we didn't have a body of work from him before.
Yeah.
So everything he did was creative to us, like, Fractured Mirror, Ozone, Snowblind. All those songs are really, they don't really sound, they're not Kiss-like. They're very un-Kiss-like, actually. So it sounds more creative, but that's just who he was, as it turns out, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you. I think it's Gene for sure sticking his neck out. And like I said, years from now I'll appreciate it, but I don't right now.
Yeah. Well, sort of on that same vein, here's a category: the album most likely to stand the test of time, meaning the most timeless album. If they're going to play these albums, I don't know if in the year 2014 people will still play Kiss records. I don't know if they'll even have record players in 2014, but which one's going to stand up to the test of time?
I think absolutely unequivocally that no matter when you put it on, Ace Frehley's album is going to be the one that you can play in any decade, any century, and it'll be relevant at that time. I think all of the other ones are, they're caught in 1978 a little bit. Definitely Peters is. I mean, it's already irrelevant, right?
Yeah, I agree. Ace Frehley, without a doubt.
Yeah.
It's you could play it today and it would sound great.
No,
Paul's is very.
There's a lot on it that I could listen.
It's Kiss-like, but it isn't. I find it's just too serious, and it's got that late '70s. I want to kiss you all over kind of feel to it.
Yeah, I think that the material itself, though, could be treated differently. If you wanted to, it could be heavier, it could be softer. I think the quality of the songwriting would stand up for 80% of it. There's some of it that would probably fall by the wayside. But the same thing goes with I think if you put Snowblind out 40 years from now, I don't know if that would be everyone's cup of tea, but who knows, right? But that's my bet. My bet would be on Ace's album too.
Yeah. Album most likely to be forgotten.
I actually said Paul.
Really?
Yeah, Jeffy goes to Paul from my perspective, and here's why.
Okay.
I think the other three albums, I'll go through it a little bit. Ace's album, for the reason we just said, okay, will stand the test of time and won't be forgotten. Gene's album is so out there; it's like offend as many people as you possibly can, and that's how you get notoriety. There's enough quirkiness and weirdness to it that it can't be forgotten. Peter's album is so bad, that it won't be forgotten. It's Paul's that just kind of.
Paul's is the most
a little vanilla.
Boring. I don't want to say boring. It's got exciting moments,
but it's Mary Kiss-like, right?
But the approach to it was so serious, and so there doesn't seem to be a fun moment on Paul's album. I completely agree with you there. I think that album could be very easily forgotten for that reason. It just doesn't have enough. It's like I'm a high school teacher, and one of the things that we often say, it's unfortunate that the students we remember are not necessarily the best students.
Right.
We remember them for certain reasons, and they're not always great reasons. And I could almost see why you'd say that about Paul's album.
Well, I always say that, and I learned this through my backpacking as well, is that adversity brings remembrance. I always remember those trips when it rained the hardest, when there was some sort of obstacle to overcome, as opposed to things that went exceptionally smoothly. The same thing goes for people, and that's exactly why I'm saying this, is that there's adversity. However things stand out, they're colorful. Gene's album was colorful. Peter's albums are colorful in its own way. And so definitely Ace has showed his talent. But Paul's, it's so Kiss-like that it could fold and it could fall in between the folds of history. You know what I mean? It could just be sitting there in between, and nobody would know that it was a Paul Stanley album.
And I would disagree for another reason, because I think that, 40, 50 years down the road, when Kiss are remembered, I think it's Paul Stanley and Gene Simmons that people are going to remember. And I think that they will seek out those albums to listen to them and see, well, what else?
Yeah, but why is that?
What else were they doing?
But is that because of the music, or is that because of the notoriety, because they stayed in the band for 60 years?
Well, a bit of both. But I think that when they play Paul Stanley's album, they'll say, well, this is very Kiss-like.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll play the rest of it, if they like Kiss. Same thing with Aces. I think Peters was the one I chose to be most likely forgotten, mainly because it just doesn't sound like Kiss, and
that's why I think it might not be forgotten. But I think it's going to be forgotten because it's so poor that nobody really listened to it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It took me a long time before I listened to it.
I never had it. I can honestly say I never heard much from the album.
I don't know why, and I don't know why I didn't get it. You know what I mean? I never did buy it in the first place.
It's funny. I bought all three except Peter's.
Me too, and I liked Peter Criss.
I don't know why.
I mean, I liked Peter Criss at the time. I liked his vocals.
I mean, I was such a huge diehard. I would have had to have all four. Now, I didn't have the money in my pocket to just go in and buy all four. So I bought like Ace Frehley. It was used. A buddy of mine just didn't want it anymore. I bought it for $3. Right. Then I saved up to buy Paul's or Gene's, whichever came next. But after I had those three, I just had no interest in buying Peters. I don't know why.
That could have been, that could have been too. Because when I bought them, I didn't have, like I said, I was in high school, or just getting out of high school, and didn't have a heck of a lot of money, so I had to make some choices. So my first choices were absolutely Paul and Ace, and that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I'm a guitar player; they're the guitar players in the band, and they're who I resonated with the most. So. Mm-hmm.
So we're coming down to the end of our list.
Good.
Which album is most important to the legacy of the artist?
Why don't you go first?
I'd have to say Ace Frehley.
So you're giving your Jeffy to Ace.
My Jeffy goes to Ace, and I think it's because Gene and Paul's legacy is Kiss. Okay, that's their legacy. They don't need those solo albums. You can erase them, and it doesn't matter. Their legacy is Kiss. Being able to keep that band together through so many different changes, so many different decades, and bringing it back full circle, and still keeping it going. Whereas Ace, that's, where else are you going to get 10 or 9, whatever it is, 9 solid Ace Frehley songs on an album as done as well as that? I don't think the solo albums are as good. So I think that one is his legacy.
My Jeffy goes to the same album. First of all, because it's a great album. So it really did. It heightened. You think about, again, I said it before, prior to this point, he had only had one song on an album that he sang on, Shock Me. So this showcased him, and so, really showed everybody who was a Kiss fan what he was capable of. And everybody was excited about it, too. So that's the first thing. It's a great album. And two, it mattered the most to him, too, for the same reason. So it's a good album, but it mattered to him because he was undercover. That part of who he was, his songwriting capability and his singing capability, was brought forth and shared with everybody in more than just one song on an album. So it really made him. It certainly raised his stature and kissed him.
The Ace Frehley solo album. I mean, here's a guy who's in one of the hottest bands and really was not very vocal, excuse the pun. I mean, he had a few songs that he wrote, like Cold Gin and Getaway, but he never appeared on any of those. Really one, sometimes no songs on a Kiss album, maybe one or two. So here's a man who's just full of creativity and rock and roll, and now he's given the chance to do 9 or 10 songs of his own and just comes out with a whopper of an album. I think that really just leaves everybody else in his dust, and for that reason, man, you got to give him so many JEFFY Awards for everything. Best album, most most Kiss-like album. Most to be one to be most remembered, and certainly the most important to his legacy.
Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
How many Kiss albums could you take off out of their catalog and replace it with this album? Meaning, how many, which albums would you get rid of to keep like, because this is, if you replace this album with any Kiss album, you could. You know what I'm saying? And how am I saying this? Is that
I know exactly what you're saying. Creatures of the Night.
You could
I
get
don't
rid
really
of.
care for Creatures. It's got a sound that I don't like. It's too heavy. It's all Vinnie Vincent. You could take all the songs on Ace's album and put them on Creatures of the Night with Paul and Gene singing certain songs.
But could you get?
Great
Well, could you? So like, if you
And
had
anything in the 80s.
Yeah, I know you'd say that, and then, but how about in the 70s though? Like,
In the 70s?
Would you say, okay, I'm never going to hear Ace's solo album, or I'm never going to hear Rock and Roll Over, or I'm never going to hear Love Gun, or I'm never going to hear Dynasty?
Rock and Roll Over is not one of my favorites, and Hotter Than Hell is not one of my favorites. For so many different reasons. Yet there's a lot of material on that I wouldn't want to do without, but I could replace those two with the Ace Frehley solo album.
I don't know if I could, but it would be in the conversation. You know what I mean? Like, whereas the other solo albums would not. I wouldn't even, I could consider.
Well, I think that Paul Stanley solo album could fit in anywhere in the later part of the decade.
Yeah, but here's what I'm saying.
Dynasty, Rock and Roll Over, or Love Gun.
But that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this. If you took the albums right up to Dynasty, okay, and you had his album, okay, if you had to eliminate, could you go back and feasibly eliminate them and replace them with that album? In other words, if you say, okay, I'm never going to hear Dynasty because I got this album. I'm never going to hear Love Gun because I have this album. In other words, could you interchange them? And that we're talking about legacy, right, and how important they are to history, right? And I don't think I could say, okay, we're never going to hear Rock and Roll Over, so I can hear. This is a stupid question because it's just one of those what ifs. If you're on you get a list, you can only put, if there's 10 albums, you can only put 10 in.
And that it comes down to like how many times have I played the Ace Frehley solo album compared to how many times have I played Rock and Roll Over.
Right.
I didn't play Rock and Roll Over a whole lot.
So could you say so? That's
the Ace Frehley album, definitely. I'd replace it.
So again, and that's what I mean by the legacy. That you asked, who does it mean the most to? Well, and who does it mean the most to us is because you could put that in the conversation. I could never take Paul Stanley's album and replace Rock and Roll Over, for instance, or Destroyer, or any album. I could never take Gene's album for sure. Obviously, Peter's we couldn't, right? So, but Ace's would at least be on the table for conversation. Like if you listen to our viewers and see what they got to say about that, would they ever consider I can only have one or the other? One of those first, Kiss albums up to Dynasty. One of those has got to go, or Ace's album. Which one's going to go, right? And would you consider it?
So, Jeff, this is an interesting exploration, and I think for the most part, it's very obvious which album we favor over all of them.
I agree.
Peter Chris's.
We favor it as it probably won more Jeffys than anybody else.
Probably.
We should count them up.
Not in a positive way. But
Can you count them up? We should count them up. I don't know how many Jeffys.
Yeah, we do that later. The fans, the viewers can count them up, and if they want.
Get Ben to do it. He'll count up how many each album. Ben, this is a mission for you. How many Jeffys did each album get or songs get? From our conversation this evening, he'll know.
He'll know.
Oh yeah, he'll know.
Great stuff. Well, I had fun with the 1978 Jeffy Awards.
Right, and this is our inaugural. This is our first Jeffys. There may be more.
We'll have to do the 1979 Jeffy Awards.
We could do Jeffys for anything.
Exactly.
We could give Jeffy's award for the worst quote in an article. We could do a Jeffy for anything. So.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, so this episode gets my thumb stamp of approval.
Good.
Stay tuned for Love Boat and Fantasy Island, followed by the news with Tom Brokaw.
Is that what was going on?
We now return you to your regularly scheduled program.
The Love Boat Shiny new love
Tattoo, the
boat.
plane.
The plane, boss.
Oh, yeah,
Boss.
the plane.
Boss,
the
the plane, boss. Shut up, Tattoo. You're such an idiot. Tattoo, what are we going to do with this plane? I love the
Followed by
words.
Charlie's Angels and Eight is Enough.
8 is
My
enough.
God, the 70s had bad TV.
Had great music.
Like it's any better today. I don't
Had great
know.
music, though.
Great music.
Yes.
I
All
love
those,
music.
what other TV shows were on in the late 70s?
Oh, Donnie and Marie.
I'm a little bit country. I'm a little bit rock and roll.
It's time to sign off. When
I
you do
don't,
that.
I don't know.
I think it is. I think it's time to go.
I
think it's
don't think it is.
definitely time to sign off.
No. Definitely not. All right.
All right, this is Jeff Scott coming to you from 1978.
Ooh, this is Jeff Gray coming from you in 1978 from Yarmouth, Nova Scotia.
All right, I'd get back in my time machine and zoom back to the future. So join us again on Watchin' You.
Yeah, man.
All right, good night, Jeff.
Good night.